The grand ballroom of the Sterling Hotel was a place where secrets danced in the shadows and power whispered through the cracks in the marble floors. The annual charity gala was in full swing, a glittering affair where the city's elite gathered under the guise of philanthropy. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden glow over the room, illuminating the opulence that dripped from every surface. Silk gowns in every shade imaginable swirled around as men in tailored tuxedos clinked champagne glasses, their polished smiles hiding ulterior motives. Emma Caldwell stood near the edge of the room, feeling like a fish out of water in her rented evening gown. It was an exquisite piece of crimson fabric that hugged her curves and flared out gently at the waist, but she could never fully shake the feeling that it didn't belong to her, not really. As a journalist for the New York Observer *, she had attended her fair share of high society events, yet the glittering world of the rich and powerful always felt foreign to her. She was an outsider looking in, a chronicler of other people's lives, but never truly a part of the story. Tonight, however, there was an energy in the air that made her pulse quicken with a mix of anticipation and unease. She wasn't just here to cover the event, she was on a mission. Rumors had been swirling about the host of the gala, a reclusive billionaire whose influence stretched across continents but who remained a ghost to the media. Emma had spent weeks digging through financial records, trying to piece together a story that was as elusive as the man himself. That man was Rafael Santiago. He was more than just a wealthy art dealer. He was a kingpin in the world of high art, known for his uncanny ability to procure the rarest and most sought-after pieces. But there were whispers, dark ones, that his empire was built on more than just a keen eye for art. Underground auctions, smuggling rings, money laundering. There was a web of illegal activity that no one had been able to definitively link to him. Yet, Emma had only seen photos of Raphael, grainy shots in glossy magazines that never quite captured his full presence. Tonight, she was determined to get closer, to look into his eyes and see the truth for herself. Her editor had been explicit: this story could make or break her career. If she could expose the secrets behind Raphael's empire, she would be catapulted to the forefront of investigative journalism. But if she failed, it could mean the end of her hard-won reputation. She scanned the room, searching for any sign of the enigmatic art dealer. The crowd was a sea of faces, most of them familiar from the society pages. Old money, new money, politicians, celebrities. She caught a glimpse of the mayor, deep in conversation with a media mogul whose face was plastered on billboards across the city. They were surrounded by a gaggle of reporters, all clamoring for a quote or a soundbite. Emma, however, wasn't interested in the small talk of politicians or the superficial chatter of socialites. She needed something more, something concrete. She was about to move deeper into the crowd when she felt a presence beside her. Turning, she found herself face to face with a man whose dark eyes seemed to pierce through the glitz and glamour, seeing straight into her soul. Enjoying the party? His voice was smooth, with a hint of an accent that she couldn't quite place. Emma hesitated for a fraction of a second, her journalistic instincts kicking in. There was something familiar about him, though she couldn't place it. He was tall, with an effortless grace that made him stand out even in this crowd of the city's elite. His black tuxedo was perfectly tailored, but it was his eyes, those deep, dark eyes, that captivated her. They were intense, as if he was seeing not just her, but everything she was trying to hide. "I suppose," she replied, forcing a smile. "Though I can't say I'm a regular at these kinds of events." "Ah, a woman of substance, then." He returned her smile, but there was something behind it, something that made her feel as if she were being studied. "I find that refreshing." His gaze lingered on her for a moment longer than necessary, and Emma felt a slight shiver run down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that this man was dangerous, though she had no reason to believe so. Yet. "And what about you?" she asked, trying to regain control of the conversation. "Do you enjoy these kinds of events?" "They serve their purpose," he said with a nonchalant shrug. "But if I'm being honest, I prefer the quieter moments, when the masks come off, so to speak." The words hung in the air between them, laden with meaning that Emma wasn't sure how to interpret. Was he talking about the literal masks that many of the guests had donned for the Masquerade theme? Or was he hinting at something deeper, something darker? The latter, she suspected. "How poetic," she replied, her voice laced with sarcasm as she deflected his insinuation. "I didn't realize we were wearing masks tonight." "Oh, but we are," he said, his voice lowering as he leaned in slightly, his breath warm against her ear. Everyone here is wearing a mask, whether they realize it or not. Emma felt her pulse quicken. There was something electric in the air between them, something she couldn't quite name. But before she could respond, a voice interrupted them. "Rafael, there you are." Emma's heart skipped a beat as she turned to see a tall, elegant woman approaching them, her eyes bright with recognition. The woman's voice was unmistakably familiar, a socialite who often graced the pages of the magazines Emma's readers devoured. But Emma barely registered her, because the name she had just spoken echoed in her mind like a gunshot. Rafael. The man beside her smiled at the woman, but his eyes never left Emma's. "Excuse me, it seems I'm needed elsewhere," he said smoothly. "But I do hope we'll continue our conversation later." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Emma standing there, her mind racing. She had been talking to Rafael Santiago, the very man she had been hunting for weeks, without even realizing it. The realization hit her like a wave, knocking the air from her lungs. The man whose life she was determined to unravel had been standing inches from her, speaking in riddles, and she had let him slip away. She watched as Rafael made his way through the crowd, effortlessly weaving between the glittering guests who clamored for his attention. He was a master of his domain, exuding confidence and charm with every step. It was clear that he was used to being in control, used to having the upper hand. But Emma was determined to change that. Her instinct screamed at her to follow him, to dig deeper, to find out what lay beneath the polished surface. There was a story here, something big, something that could shatter the carefully constructed world of Rafael Santiago. But she also knew that she needed to be careful. Rafael was dangerous, more dangerous than she had anticipated. This wasn't just a story anymore, it was a game of cat and mouse, and she was stepping into his territory. As she moved through the crowd, her eyes fixed on Rafael, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being drawn into something far bigger than she had imagined. The glitz and glamour of the ballroom seemed to fade away, replaced by the sharp focus of a predator stalking its prey. Every fiber of her being was attuned to Rafael, to the way he moved, the way he spoke, the way he seemed to command the attention of everyone around him. She was playing with fire, and she knew it. But there was something intoxicating about the danger, something that made her blood race and her heart pound in her chest. This was what she lived for, the thrill of the chase, the rush of adrenaline that came from being so close to the truth. But there was also fear, a nagging voice in the back of her mind that warned her to be careful, to keep her distance, to not get too close. Rafael Santiago was not just another wealthy businessman with secrets to hide. He was a man who had built an empire on the edge of the law, a man who was used to getting what he wanted, no matter the cost. And now, he had his sights set on her. As the night wore on, Emma found herself watching Rafael from a distance, studying him, trying to piece together the puzzle that was his life. He moved through the room like a shadow, his presence felt even when he wasn't in sight. People whispered his name with a mix of awe and fear, their eyes following him as if he were a myth come to life. But despite his outward charm, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something sinister lurking beneath the surface. She had seen men like Rafael before, men who wore their power like a second skin, who thrived in the shadows, who knew how to manipulate the world around them to get what they wanted. And yet, there was something different about him, something that drew her in even as it repelled her. It was a dangerous attraction, one that she knew could lead to her downfall if she wasn't careful. But Emma Caldwell had never been one to back down from a challenge. As the night drew to a close and the guests began to filter out of the ballroom, Emma made her way to the exit, her mind racing with everything that had transpired. She had come here looking for a story, but she had found something much more complex and dangerous. Rafael Santiago was more than just a subject for her next article. He was a man with secrets, a man who could destroy her career, or worse, if she wasn't careful. But there was also something else, something she couldn't quite name. A connection, a spark, something that made her want to know more, to dig deeper, to uncover the truth about the man who had captured her attention in a way no one else ever had. As she stepped out into the cool night air, Emma took a deep breath, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and determination. This was just the beginning, she told herself. The first step in what would undoubtedly be a long and dangerous journey. But she was ready for it. She had to be. Because now, it wasn't just about the story. It was about him. And she had a feeling that Rafael Santiago would change her life in ways she could never have imagined.